Welcome back to the Sibling Group Chat. I'm Owen.
And I'm Cassidy.
And today we are back at it with the Odyssey review, episode 25, A Change of Hart.
Yes, this is the 27th episode of Adventures in Odyssey, and it originally aired on May 21st, 1988. It is the last episode in Album 1, The Adventure Begins. We finally made it!
Yay!
And in this episode, Freddie Hart is constantly teased by his middle school classmates, but when he switches schools, he finds that his troubles follow him. And her themes are salvation and living a changed life.
Yeah, and just before we really get into it, I don't know why, I've never really liked this episode. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, I don't know, it's always kind of seemed kind of depressing. Like, it's a very somber, like, there's no happy resolution almost. And I mean, at the end of the episode, he literally becomes a Christian, and I still don't get much of a sense of like fulfillment from the episode.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's definitely not one of my favorites. Like, there's nothing, like, it's not like I dislike it, but I don't, it's there.
Yeah. But anyway, we're getting into it with the Chris intro, as she is with a renowned doctor, at least in Odyssey, and I don't even know what his name is, but you can probably say it.
Dr. Julius Schnitzelbonker.
Yes.
He was voiced by Chuck Bolte.
Doctor in Odyssey, who's trying to turn eggs into gold bars. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's the intro. And then we hop in and we meet Freddie Hart, who's a young middle.
The intro does finish. Because there's a scene with Chris, you do the open music, and then it goes back to the sketch.
Oh, right, because it doesn't work.
His experiment doesn't work, and they're talking about, like, how some changes, like, don't work.
Yeah. Then we meet Freddie.
Yes. Who is not the same Freddie that we've had up to this point.
This is for sure our third Freddie now.
For sure, yeah. And I feel like...
I think folks on the family just had an addiction to naming kids Freddie.
Yeah, maybe. And he's voiced by the voice of later Jack Davis, I believe.
I was pretty sure that's who it was, because I knew it was a familiar voice, but I wasn't positive that it was Jack.
Yeah, I think it was Jack.
Okay.
Yeah, but his father's voiced by Chuck Bolte as well. Chuck Bolte had two characters in this episode.
Yes. And so we have Freddie Hart, who's a middle schooler. He's had a rough day at school. He comes home and he starts talking to his dad, and he's asking his dad, like, do you like your job? Do you have a problem with the kids or the people you work with? Is your boss a problem? You think maybe it's time to move? And essentially, he's tired of, he's been getting bullied at school, and he doesn't know what to do to make it stop. And so his plan is just he needs to leave, basically.
Yeah. Do you get the impression that, like, their family is new to Odyssey?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because this bullying seems like a relatively new thing. Like, he doesn't have any friends. So, I get the impression that they're new to Odyssey.
Yeah. Yeah, so Freddie doesn't have any friends, and his dad even says, like, asked him why it was taking him so long to get home from school, because he thought that he had been with friends. Mm-hmm. But he said he takes a long way to avoid the kids who would bully him. And I just have to say, throughout this episode, I feel like in Odyssey, if a kid didn't have any friends, the thing for him to do would be to go to Wit's End. And I get you were telling me right before we got started, you said this is the first ever episode that doesn't have any of the main people in Odyssey. It doesn't have Wit. There's no Connie. There's no Tom Riley.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, I feel like Wit's End deserved a mention in this episode almost. Like, that's where the kids go.
Yeah, I agree. But I also, like, if Wit's End had been involved, Mr. Whitaker would have been the adult in this story, not Freddie's dad. And I feel like there's a time when, like, Mr. Whitaker's great and he gives kids great advice, but I think sometimes we need the more real world where the most trusted adult to a kid is their parents.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
So yeah, then him and his dad have a conversation. His dad tells him that he's sure that if he just ignores them and tries to avoid the bullies, that eventually the bullying would stop. However, the next day, Freddy comes home from school having been beat up.
Yeah.
And so then his father went to go talk to the principal. The principal suggests a few things, says he can give the boys that had beat him up detention. He can have some people try to watch out for Freddy, but ultimately, there's no way he can monitor Freddy 24/7 to make sure Freddy doesn't get teased or anything.
Yeah, which is all true, but overall, I feel like the bullying is really overlooked in this episode.
It kind of is. Like, I felt like the
Freddy
principal
is-
took it a little bit too lightly.
Yeah, the principal did, but then even later, well, maybe I'll say more later, but yeah, throughout all of this, I just feel like the bullying is not addressed sufficiently.
Yeah, you could make that argument, I suppose.
Yeah. Also, the principal says there's nearly 300 kids in this school. And I don't know if this is Odyssey Elementary or Odyssey Middle School, or if at this point in Odyssey that's all one thing, but that's a lot more kids than I would expect to be in an Odyssey school.
Hmm.
You don't agree?
I don't not agree, but Odyssey's population is a fluid number, I feel like.
That's true. It just felt really big to me.
Yeah. I mean, in general, the high school, the middle school, and the elementary are separate.
Yes. And here, do we
So
know for sure if he's in elementary or middle school?
I don't think so, but I kind of get the impression he's maybe middle school.
Me too. So it's like 100 kids per grade, which I'm not from a town that would be normal, but I guess that's really not that big.
Yeah, I mean, that's not unheard of, I don't think.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah. But basically, yeah, his father's conversation with the principal doesn't really propose any solutions, which is apparently what his father was expecting based on what he tells
Tell mom later.
mom later, yeah. And after his parents, they have a decision, they pray some, and they decide that they're going to let Freddy try out Odyssey Academy. What? What is this Odyssey Academy? Where did it come from? I need answers.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it doesn't ever exist again. They say it's
Yeah.
a private school, but I don't get the impression that it's a private Christian school. And I get
No,
that you
it's
can
like
have not Christian private schools, but that feels very uncommon to me.
yeah, I feel like it's like a private like
Like
rich kid
charter school, almost
Yeah.
like college prep or something.
Yeah. I
But
don't know, it
also,
just seems very out of place.
it does, but I think it's again another example of where we're still creating the town of Odyssey. Because it also makes me think of like back in Connie's very first episode when she's hosting the Bible Bowl, and like Village Christian School wins Bible Bowl or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I think also because back then they didn't really realize the show would continue for so long, they weren't as worried about continuity, and said they could just throw out a random school name and it was fine. And now, almost 40 years into the show, where we have a well-established town, we're like, that doesn't fit. But it wasn't as important back then.
It's true. But yes, so Freddie had mentioned Odyssey Academy earlier, and they ultimately decide that they're going to let him go to Odyssey Academy. So on his first day at Odyssey Academy, Freddie is introduced to his new class and is asked to tell them about his hobbies, but the kids immediately start making fun of him while he's talking about his hobbies. He mentions butterfly collecting and harp playing, which obviously you shouldn't make fun of kids. However, those are some very interesting hobbies.
You're saying you would have made fun of Freddy too?
No, not necessarily. It's just when you meet a middle school boy whose hobbies are butterfly collecting and harp playing, there's some questions, I feel like.
Especially, I feel like if this episode was now, there would be even more questions and things that, unfortunately, we shouldn't have. Like, a boy can like the harp and a boy can like to collect butterflies and he can still be a boy, that's fine. But unfortunately, yeah, a boy's going to be made fun of for that.
Yeah. I mean, really, like, there's no problem with it, especially like the harp, like instruments. There's usually a stereotypical gender to go with an instrument, but it's not a problem if like
Yeah.
like you're a flute player. Stereotypically,
Mm-hmm.
flute players are female. However, there are male flute players. I
Yeah,
play the
one of the most
trombone as stereotypically male instrument, but there are female trombone players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's kind of even like when it comes to cooking, like women's stereotype is to be in the kitchen, but I almost feel like there's way more famous male chefs than female chefs.
Anyone can cook.
That's true. That was said by a male chef. Yeah. Anyway, that's our soapbox for today. Boys can like butterflies and harps, but yeah, we probably would have made fun of Freddy too.
So yeah, at lunch he starts talking to a kid from his class who he had talked to briefly before.
I think his name was
class
like
started that
Gordy
day.
or something like that.
Yeah, it was a weird name.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably short for Gordon. I don't know why you need to shorten Gordon, but
Was it Gordy or Cordy?
I thought it was Gordy.
That would make more sense. It sounded like Cordy to me, and I'm like, what kind of a name is Cordy?
Maybe it's QWERTY, like the keyboard.
Right. But so the kid from his class lets him sit there at lunch, and he basically tells him that the reason all the kids are all avoiding him is because his hobbies are weird, and he says geeky. I think he says that the harp is for girls. And then he tells him that his hair and clothes are out of style.
Yeah, he seems to be a bit, like, in addition to his unique hobbies, he seems to be a bit nerdy. Because, I guess he carries, like, his pens in his pocket and everything, which, again, nothing wrong with that, but makes it a little more understandable that the kids are making fun of him.
Yeah. So, with this information in mind, the next day Freddy tries to change his appearance, thinking that the kids might like him better if he does his hair different, wears different clothes, which his mom sees him getting ready, or like sees him before he leaves in the morning, and is like, it's not going to change anything, like, you're still Freddy. But he goes to school, and it didn't work out like he had hoped. He comes out from school that day in tears, and pretty much from then until the end of the episode, it's a conversation between him and his dad. He talks to him. Freddy doesn't understand why the kids don't like him.
Yeah.
And he says he just wants to be, like, popular, or at least accepted. And his dad tells him that changing his appearance won't change who he is. He helps him realize that there's a limit to how much he can change himself, or what he's willing to change to be accepted. But there are more important things than being accepted by peers. His dad talks to him about how he wants to be acceptable to his boss, his spouse, and most importantly, to God. So the most important thing is to strive to please God, and how God loves us unconditionally. And when we follow God, he works in us to change us to be more like him. He works on the inside. And apparently Freddy's parents are Christians, but Freddy is not yet. So his dad was asking him, like, do you remember hearing about this at church? And Freddy didn't really remember it. But Freddy is clearly interested, and he wants to learn more. So he asks his dad some questions, and his dad basically leads him through the Bible, and Freddy ends up becoming a Christian. Yeah, and that's pretty much the end of the episode. There's a little conversation of him asking his mom if he can start taking harp lessons. But what the real thing it shows, other than that, like, becoming a Christian is the most important decision you can ever make, is that he just realized that his priorities didn't need to be pleasing his friends or the peers, but following Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a real short summary, which I feel like for this episode, like, that's all there is to it. I feel like there's a lot of, like, they were trying to get one cohesive theme through this story, but I feel like there's a lot of stray ends. Because, like, some of the time he's being bullied, and some of the time he's being made fun of, and I feel like it needed to be more consistent. Because, like, if he was just being made fun of, it makes sense that, like, there wasn't a ton of action being taken. Like, I feel like the reactions of the adults are more consistent with being made fun of than with bullying. I don't know. And then,
Yeah.
like, he just, like, is immediately overnight because he becomes a Christian, he's okay with being himself. That's good, but I don't think that's very realistic. I think he would, obviously, like, if we continued to see Freddy, we may see him work through this, but I think he would actually, it would probably still take him a little while to be okay with being
Yeah,
himself. But I
that's
suppose for
true.
the purpose of the episode, we got to
Mhm.
get the point across and everything. But I don't know, it felt a little rushed and off a few times. But
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. The outro is basically just Chris talking about how instead of changing himself, Freddy made a decision that has eternal ramifications, not just short term trying to get people to like him. So,
yeah,
yeah, I guess that's all for that episode. That's the end of album one.
yeah, it really
We
does
have
not go
made it.
out with a bang.
It really doesn't.
It just
Um,
kind of fizzles out.
yeah, but yeah, we have made it to the end of album one. We had a couple stragglers from a couple other albums before we got there, but
hmm
episode now 25 of the Odyssey review,
I believe so. Yeah.
and we have made it to the end of our first album. We've
Yes.
got 70 plus more to go.
Yep, but they get shorter over time. But then there's also like the club episodes and you
Yeah,
know
we've got a lot
one
of work to
down,
do.
a lot to go.
Yes, we have a lot of work to do. However, on every last Friday of the month, we have potentially un-Odyssey review related content coming out. Although this in a couple weeks, this month, our content will be Odyssey related. As our first YouTube exclusive video, we are going to tier rank all episodes that are found in album one, The Adventure Begins.
Yes, this is going to be very exciting. We're doing this as an Odyssey or as a YouTube exclusive because we want you to be able to see the tier list. Like, it doesn't really make sense without the visual, and even though you can watch it on Spotify, it just translates better as a YouTube video. So if you have only been listening to us on Spotify, that's fine. But if you want to check out our tier list ranking, keep an eye out for YouTube. That'll be the last Friday in September.
Yes, and we plan to do this with every album. Um, we're coming up with ideas for naming our tiers other than just the letter grades for the tiers. If you have any recommendations,
Yeah.
feel free to comment down
We're
below.
Yeah, we're thinking something along the lines of like S is Wad Fam Chalksod or something like that. Like that's just one idea we've had. It might not be that, but
My,
we
my
need
idea
good.
for my idea
We
for
need
F tier that I had a couple weeks ago was that we could make F tier the dumpster behind the Electric Palace, but it's a lot of words for a name of a tier, so I'm not sure.
yeah, but yeah, let us know some good Odyssey related tier names for our tier ranking. That honestly we probably will have recorded before you hear us talking about this, but we might change them if you give us a really good idea. So.
Potentially, yeah.
Mhm.
And I think with the tier list, we have decided that if we have S tier episodes from an album, that they're going to stick around to be kind of a standard for future albums. So if we have an S tier episode from album one, it'll still be sitting there in S tier when we start doing album two tier ranking in the
Mhm.
coming months.
Yeah. And if you have no idea what we're talking about and you don't know what a tier list is, go look it up because I don't really know how to describe it to you.
Yeah. But anyway, I think that about sums it up. What is our next episode?
Our next episode we'll be reviewing is episode 28, The Price of Freedom, which is the first episode of album 6.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So, again, I don't know. This episode, not to spoil anything, but this episode does include non-recurring characters again, so I think it's kind of like another case of Mike Makes Right, where you're like, there's nothing keeping it in album 6, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also like that's years down the line. Not
Yeah.
actually, but so yeah.
Yeah. Well, as always, we thank you for listening. Go ahead and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe wherever you listen and or watch. And we'll see you next time.
Yep. Bye.